Dear students, how are you? I think you all are fine. I am also fine. Welcome. This is Lavan Sharkar. Welcome to my today's live class. I think you know well. I have taken already 2 classes on chapter 8, and I have already discussed about democracy, kinds of democracy, merits of democracy, demerits of democracy in my first class. And in my second class, I have discussed about political party, then the aims and objectives of the political party, and the role of political parties in democratic system. So this is the last class one chapter 8 today. So before the start of our today's class, I would like to show our today's learning outcome. Okay. So dear students. So here you can see this is the name of our of the chapter 8, the democracy and the elections. Okay. So now I'm going to show you our today's learning outcome. After the class, you will be able to say what election is. Then you will be able to describe about the kinds of elections, and number 3 you will be able to describe about the election commission of BD, that means Bangladesh. Okay. So dear students, today at the beginning of my class I would like to talk about election. Basically election is a process to find out the best alternatives from different types of alternatives. But in politics, the meaning there has different meaning of elections. In politics, election means a process by which all political parties try to form government so that they can distribute the national resources. Okay, boys. Again, I am going to tell you the definitions of election. Basically, election is a process by which the political parties try to form government so that they can distribute the national resources. Okay, so to remember the definitions of election, you have to remember some key informations regarding elections. Now I am going to show you these keywords regarding election. So first of all, important element of democracy. Yes, election is the most important elements of democracy. Okay, and without free, fair, and credible election, democracy is nothing. It is said that election is the most important element of democracy. Information number 2: legal way to form government. Election is the only legal way to form government. Okay, and all the political parties of a country should try to participate in election to form government in legal process. And number 3, run by the election commission. Okay. So election will be run by the election commission. Okay, and in my next part of my class I will talk about the formation of election and the functions of the elections. And last information about election is, without election democracy is valueless. Okay, that means without election we cannot imagine the existence of democracy. Democracy. Okay, so this is all about the election, and you have to understand these keywords to write down the definitions of election. Okay, thank you very much, student. Now I am going to talk about the types of election. Basically, there are 2 types of elections. First of all, direct election, and number 2, indirect election. So thing is that what is called a direct election? Direct election is such an election where all the citizens or all the voters of a country can take part to elect their representatives directly. Okay. Again, I am going to tell you the definition of direct democracy. Direct democracy, direct election. Direct election is such an election where all the voters of a country can take part to elect their representatives directly. Say, for example, our general elections or by-elections or local government elections. Okay. And next type is indirect election. So what is called indirect election? Indirect election is such an election where all the voters cannot take part to elect their representatives or president or prime minister directly. At first, they elect a midterm electoral college or electoral agency. Okay, and then this electoral agency will elect their president or prime minister. And this system is highly practiced in the states of America, and we can see the president of the United States of America is elected by indirect election system. And there are 438 electoral colleges in the United States of America. To be the president of United States of America, you have to need 270 electoral college, that means electoral votes. Okay. So now I am going to show you the difference between the direct election and indirect election in front of you. First of all, election, there are two types: direct election and indirect election. Direct election, voters elect their representatives directly. So this is the key thing about direct elections. And maximum election and maximum types of election of our country are held according to this system. Okay, except the election of president of our country. And then indirect election, voters elect a midterm electoral agency or electoral college. Okay, and only we can see in our country this system to elect our president, because our president is elected by the votes of the parliament. At first, we elect our representatives, and in our parliament there are 350 parliamentary seats. Among the 350, 300 are directly elected by the common people, by the voters, and 50 are reserved for women. Okay, so our president is elected by the votes of our parliament members in indirect election system. So dear students, that's all about the types of election. Okay, now I am going to talk about election commission. So at first you have to understand what is called election commission. So election commission is a constitutional, one of the constitutional institutions of our country. Again, I am going to say you, election commission of Bangladesh is one of the constitutional institutions of our country. So here you have to understand what is called the constitutional institution. Constitutional institutions are established according to the constitution, according to the constitutional law, and there are few constitutional institutions of our country. Say, for example, Prime Minister Office, Anti-Corruption Commission, Supreme Court, Parliament, okay, Public Service Commission of Bangladesh, and all other constitutional institutions. And among these types of constitutional institutions, Election Commission is one of the constitutional institutions, whose main duty to arrange a free, fair, and credible election. So we can say Election Commission is one of the constitutional institutions of Bangladesh, whose main duty to arrange free, fair, and credible election for the nation. That's all. Now I am going to talk about the formation of Election Commission. Okay. Here you have to remember some information to write down the formation of election commission. First of all, constitutional institution. I have discussed about constitutional institutions already. Then run by the chief election commissioner and other commissioner. Okay. So we have election commission, and it consists of a chief election commissioner. In simply or in short term, we can say CEC. That means chief election commissioner. Okay, and other election commissioner. Next thing is that appointed for 5 years, 5 years, and they will be appointed for 5 years. That means the tenure of the office of the election chief election and commissioners and other commissioners will be 5 years. Next thing is that all the members of the election commission and commissions are appointed by the president. Okay, so all the members of the election commission of Bangladesh will be appointed by the president. Okay, okay, but they can resign from their office by sending letters to the president. And last information of the formation of election commission is to arrange free, fair, credible election is the main aim of the election commission. That means this is the main aim of the election commission of Bangladesh, to arrange free, fair, credible election to the nation. So this is all about the formations of election commission of Bangladesh. Dear students, now I am going to talk about the functions of the election commission, and this is highly important for credit question in your upcoming examinations. Not only your upcoming examinations, this is important for your public examination. So you have to give much attention on my speaking. So now we are going to talk about the functions of the election commission. First of all, to declare the election schedule. Okay, so this is the prime this is one of the functions of the election commissions. Okay, so at first you have to understand what is called the election schedule. To declare the date of the election, to declare the how many candidates are participating in election, everything, to declare everything about an upcoming election by the election commission publicly is called the election schedule. Again, I am going to say you what is called election schedule. Declaring everything about an upcoming election by the election commission publicly is called the election schedule. So this is one of the functions of election commission. Number 2, to prepare voter list. Okay, so this is one of the functions of the election commission. There is no doubt without enlisted voter list or specific voter list, the election commission will not be arranged a free, fair and credible election. Number 3, to determine the determine of the constituencies. To determine of the constituencies. Number 3. So at first you have to understand what is called the constituencies. The synonym of the constituencies means the parliament seats, okay, or electoral area or electoral division. And you know there are 300 electoral area or constituencies or parliamentary seats in our country. So to determine or to divide the area, electoral area, is one of the functions of election commission. Then to appoint returning officer. Number 4, to appoint returning officer in election. Basically in general election and by election, returning officers play important role. Okay, so the election commissioner will appoint returning officers for each electoral division or electoral area or each parliamentary seats. Okay, so and he will be the top officers of the election commissions on electoral area. Okay. Next, now 5, to distribute the nomination paper. Okay. So at first, the election commission will collect nomination papers, papers from the candidates from different political parties, and after sorting out, after checking ins and out of everything, they will distribute the nomination paper to the candidates of the political parties. Number 6, to distribute symbols among the candidates. Okay. In any types of election of our country, and we can see different type of symbols. Okay, and this is one of the duties or functions of the election commission of Bangladesh, to give specific symbols of each candidates who are participating in an election. Number 7, to print out ballot papers. To print out ballot papers. Okay, and you know, to end an election is very difficult task, and so to print out ballot papers or to arrange the EVM machines for all the polling centers is one of the functions of the election commission. Okay. Next, it will be number 8. Okay, to fix polling booths. Okay, again I am going to tell you, to arrange an election is very difficult task. Okay, so the election commission has to arrange the polling centers, and they have to do everything to arrange the polling booths. The last number is that appoint other officials. Okay, so other officials means presiding officers, assistant presiding officers, and polling officers. So now I am going to introduce who are presiding officer, who are assistant presiding officer, and who are polling officer. Okay, at first, presiding officer. Presiding officer means the leader of a group. A presiding officer is a head of a polling center. Okay, polling center. Then assistant presiding officer. Assistant presiding officer is a head, is responsible for a polling booth. Okay, and who are polling officers? Polling officers are responsible to help an assistant presiding officer in a polling booth. So this is all about the other officials regarding election. Then competing votes. To count the votes is one of the duties of the election commission. And next thing is that declaring the results. After counting the votes, the election commission will declare the results of the elections. So that's all about the functions of the election commission in brief. So dear students, now I am going to talk about what is electoral code of conduct. Okay. So now we are going to talk about what is electoral code of conduct. Okay. So electoral code of conduct is nothing but some of the rules and regulations of the election commission to the candidates of the political parties who are going to participate in an election. So electoral code of conduct means what should you do in election and what should you not do in election. Okay, so electoral code of conduct means some rules and regulations given by the election commission to the candidates of the political parties who are going to participate in an election. Okay, so and in your textbooks there are few electoral code of conduct, and you have to just read out these things. If you have any problem to understand any word or any sentence, or the meaning of any sentence, you can put your questions in comment box, and after the finish of my class I will give the answer of your questions. Okay. And now I am going to talk about the punishment of violating electoral code of conduct. The punishment of violating electoral code of conduct. Okay. So if you break the laws which is imposed by the election commission during election time, okay, you have to face some punishment. Okay. So what will be the punishment? uh, you may face 10 year jails, not more than 10-year jails, but not less than 2-year jails. That means you will, if you do any misdeed in election time as a candidate or as a voters, okay, you will get not more than 10-year jails and not less than 2-year jails with financial punishment. So this is the punishment of violating electoral code of conduct. Okay. And in case of the officers of election commission of violating rules of regulation during the election time, at first the law info agencies have to take in the permission from the election commission to file case against him, or against any officials of the election commission. So dear students, that's all about the election, types of election, formation of election commission, functions of election commission, code of conduct of electoral code of conduct, and the punishment of violating electoral code of conduct. Okay. So in my next class, I will take a solve class basically, and you can ask any questions in my live class, and I would like to give the right answer of your questions. So dear students, stay home, stay safe. So next day, that means tomorrow, see you again. Till then, Allah Hafiz.